Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we react to the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. I'm Katie Halper, and I'm joined by...
Well, not Aaron Maté.
Nope.
I'm called Rania Kalik.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi,
It's good to be
Rania.
back with you.
How are
Good to
you?
be back with you, Katie. I'm good. I just got back to Lebanon a few days ago, so adjusting to the time zone difference.
And tell us, were you anywhere interesting?
I was in the U.S. I was in Venezuela. That was pretty interesting.
That's more interesting, yeah.
Yeah. I was in Venezuela, and then I left, and there was like this fascist coup attempt, and then I went to the U.S. where I had to leave where I was because there was a tropical storm. So I was just like, okay, so everywhere I go, it's just not working out.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should be afraid in New York City because you're going to be there. Sorry, guys. I have really bad allergies today. I'm about to sneeze. You're going to be there September 19th when you and Abby Martin and I are doing a live show at the People's Forum. Yeah.
Very excited for that. For those who are watching who are in New York, or if you're not in New York, you don't have to live in New York to come.
Yeah, you can still come. We'll let you in.
Yeah. Doors open 6:30 p.m. September 19th, Thursday at the People's Forum. And I would, if you want to come, get your tickets now. Go to the People's Forum website, get your tickets now because it's only gonna be in person. Yeah. And then we'll probably we might put some clips of parts of it out later, but it won't be live streamed.
Exactly. Unlike other ones that we've done, it won't be live streamed. So if you want to see it in real time or somewhat close to when it's done, then you'll have to do that. Sorry, guys. All right, 1 second. I have to mute myself to blow my nose. I'm so sorry.
Oh, poor Katie. I'm sorry, Katie. That really it sucks to be congested.
It does, yeah. But
it interferes with everything. It interferes with sleep.
Yeah, it really does. But you know what? Nothing will stop us from doing this show. And I feel fine. I'm just a little congested, as Rania said. So speaking of congestion, how do you like that segue? Let's go to our major congestioner. They definitely congest our brainwaves and our hearts with terrible news and analysis. And that will be, of course, Meet the Press.
Oh, God.
This is Meet the Press with Kristen Welker.
Good Sunday morning. As we come on the air after a brief pause for the Olympics, the race for the White House has dramatically shifted, with Vice President Harris now at the top of the ticket. She has reset the race and the electoral map, and tomorrow night all eyes will be on Chicago as the Democratic National Convention gets underway.
We are running a campaign on behalf of all Americans. And when elected, we will govern on behalf of all Americans.
Not the Americans not the Americans who opposed genocide.
No, and also I hate also like those kinds of phrases. They're so empty.
Yeah.
We are running on behalf of all Americans. Like, no, you're not. I mean, just a stupid thing to say. But doesn't represent me, doesn't represent you. Certainly not all the people that she told to shut up so she could keep speaking.
Yeah. It represents herself, though. She represents herself very well. Can you believe that they've made that now into like a campaign unofficial slogan?
Disgusted. I saw Stephen King tweeted out a photo of himself in the shirt, the like official campaign shirt, I'm speaking. And it's so disgusting because you're basically making a meme out of telling people who oppose genocide that you support to shut up.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. And making it also about like respect me, like making it like, it's woke washing genocide, right?
Girl boss.
Like, what'd you say?
Girl boss.
Yeah. Girl boss. Exactly. Yeah. It's really disgusting. Anyway, so, but Kamala is like the queen of platitudes because she has nothing to say ever. So at least this platitude that she delivered was corny and hackneyed and meaningless and cliche, but at least it was coherent.
And less effective than shut up.
Then I'm speaking. Yeah.
President Biden trailed former President Donald Trump nationally and in key battleground states. But now Harris has narrowed the gap with Mr. Trump nationally and is leading or tied with him in 6 out of 7 battleground states. That's according to the Cook Political Report, within the margin of error. A New York Times Siena College battleground poll confirms a highly competitive presidential race in the Sunbelt states of Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina. Just a month ago, just a third of Democrats were satisfied with Biden as their nominee. Now, in a CNBC poll, 81% of Democrats say they feel that way about Harris.
Can we just pause and take stock of the fact that regardless of your feelings about Harris, and obviously we're extremely critical of her, but she's so much better politically, I don't mean policy-wise, I mean as a political choice, right? In terms of viability. It is insane that Joe Biden was fighting stepping down despite the fact that she is so much more popular than he is.
Well, and also I think it's really, it really speaks to, and it pains me to say this, the Democratic Party did something really smart by kind of throwing him to the wolves in that early debate, because they kind of let him suicide himself. And it worked. And also he set the bar so low that somebody like Kamala Harris, who was not a popular candidate last time around, nor has she been a popular vice president. I mean, we used to joke like we forgot she existed.
Right.
That just because she's a lot younger, not a bit younger. She's younger.
Yeah. She can form sentences.
She's attractive.
Yeah.
She can speak coherently.
Right. Yeah.
And that's like, she can string together sentences, and that's kind of all it takes, because Joe Biden had taken the bar so low that that's where this enthusiasm is coming from. And it's worked. It's worked really well, and it's really thrown Trump off.
Yeah.
And everybody forgot JD Vance exists now.
Right. Do you ever watch the show Arrested Development?
Yeah, I did.
They kind of that. Kamala and JD Vance kind of remind me of Anne, the character who like they always forget exists.
Oh yeah. Can I also say JD Vance, and please somebody validate me on this, looks just like the guy from Friday Night Lights.
Okay, Wilson, you're gonna have to take a look at that.
The football guy, the main character, like the quarterback who like gets injured in the first episode.
Okay,
sorry, spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert for episode 1. Yeah.
Like when I first saw JD Vance, I was like, did that guy from Friday Night Lights go into politics?
Yeah. Someone posted he looked like a racist Care Bear, which I thought was
everyone inside. That's kind of like what the guy from Friday Night Lights looks like.
Oh, interesting. Bear, so. Yeah,
same look.
Cool. Someone has to put that person. Wilson, you're gonna have to find that person, because I don't know what he looks like.
The volatility in the election has benefited Harris, but now the race is on to define her. How much will her presidency be a continuation of Biden's policies? And where will she break from him? We may get more answers on Thursday night. For his part, Mr. Trump has struggled to adjust to the change in the race he was once winning. Allies urging him to stay focused on policy differences. Instead, he has often veered into personal attacks.
The most unpopular vice president in the history of our country. And then they decided to get politically correct. We have to put her in. They put her in. She's not smart. She's not intelligent. And we've gone through enough of that with this guy, Crooked Joe. This woman is nuts. Look, people say, be nice. Have you heard her laugh? That is the laugh of a crazy person. That is the laugh of a crazy. It's the laugh of a lunatic.
You know, something I find unconvincing about this is that she's not interesting enough to be crazy. Like, her laugh is terrible, I'll admit that, but I just don't think that one's going to stick.
No, she's just like a corporate robot.
Yeah, exactly.
Laughs, because she does laugh a little ridiculously, but I'm one to talk, so do I.
Yeah.
But these are obviously like really pathetic ways to go after her, because there are ways to go after her. The problem with Donald Trump is, I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised he hasn't called her a cop. Because Donald Trump does a good job of like being a warmonger and being like, you know, a right-wing hack, while also mocking that stuff from his opponents.
Right. Yeah. Like, I cut you off. What'd you say?
Well, I was just gonna say it's so easy to call her a cop,
right,
and to like go after her for what she did when she was attorney general in California.
Right.
He could also mock her for. Yes. He could also even just like mock her for not being for being like a invisible vice president. I'm surprised he hasn't gone there.
Yeah.
I think he's been really thrown off by this. God, I hate American politics so much, because like now this is the conversation, not that me and you are having, that the media is having, as opposed to like the genocide they're all in support of in Gaza.
Right.
So we just have like different flavors of genocide to choose between.
Exactly.
What we're being told. Yeah.
Someone just wrote he wants cop votes too much. But the thing about Trump is that he's so ideologically inconsistent and no one cares about it. It really is his get out of jail free card. So we actually see him, like, he called out Hillary Clinton for her super predators comment.
Right.
Because even though this is a guy who during that same era in the 80s and 90s when people were vilifying basically Black youth. He took out an op-ed in a New York, I think it was in the Daily News, calling for the death penalty for the Central Park Five. And he's never apologized for that. But it just shows, so he is like awful on criminal justice. But again, he has this amazing power because no one expects him to be consistent. He can call out hypocrisy. Like his hypocrisy is built into who he is. So it almost doesn't look hypocritical. But he has the power to call out the hypocrisy of others. So I could totally see him calling her a cop. Or I could see him calling her out for flip-flopping, you know, all of those things. He just likes to get under people's skin, but he's not doing a good job. The Indian versus Black thing is not landing.
Just weird.
Yeah, it's just weird. We just parroted a Democratic talking point. Weird.
Weird, yeah. But you know, I will say this. I think one of the reasons that like we still don't know how it'll play out in the sense that it's Kamala Harris's to lose. Yeah. And she can speak coherently, but she also fumbles a lot. Yeah. And doesn't make sense a lot of the time. So it'll be interesting when they go up against each other because I mean, yeah, but at the same time, I think that next to Joe Biden, Trump looked coherent.
Exactly.
Well, he's also just like an old guy too. No offense to the old people, but you know, like an old guy too, who like forgets what he's saying sometimes and also doesn't make sense all the time. So I don't know. I wouldn't for those people who were like, no, just wait till she starts talking. I wouldn't like assume that Trump can win. I actually don't think he can at this point.
He just has confidence no matter what he's saying.
Yeah,
unlike
exactly.
Biden, who Biden you could tell was like he was embarrassed.
He was lost.
He was lost. It was like the only time I've ever felt empathy for Biden, honestly. I mean, I obviously think he's reprehensible and a genocider in chief, but I have to say that was a painful thing to watch.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I felt like, okay, it's time mercy. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was elder abuse. It was elder abuse. Yeah. Are we done with that clip, Wilson, or is there more to that clip? I think there's a little more, right?
Yeah, but we also, let's take a look and see what everybody thinks of this.
Okay. Of the JD Vance comparison.
Yeah.
Right, let's see.
Oh, you found it?
So there's JD.
Okay, there's
Wait, is that one Tim Riggins? No, that's JD, right?
That's JD. That's racist Care Bear. And I can't take credit, and I wish I remembered who tweeted it out. I'll try to find it and then I'll put it in the description, yeah.
No, wrong guy.
Is that the wrong guy? He's got the eyes, which is making me think it.
No. Right.
Oh, this is the main character.
Is it? Why does he have long hair? Oh, you know what? That's like him in the first episode. You have to get him like a little bit later. Sorry. What's his name?
Go. I see it. Go down, Wilson. Go down. Left. No, left. Go left. Right there. That one. No, to the right. That one.
Wait, where? Hold on. I went and looked and now I lost the screen.
Is that the one you think?
No, it's the wrong guy. Hang on. They're like,
it's the wrong guy.
Hang on. I'll tell you who.
All right.
I see the eyeliner eyes in it.
Where's the guy from Friday Night Lights that I think looks like JD Vance? Now I'm looking at the cast.
Yeah.
It's Scott Porter. Is it Scott Porter?
All right, look up Scott Porter. We'll finish this clip, then we'll go back.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Some Republicans, including former rival Nikki Haley, are warning Mr. Trump to stay on message.
The campaign is not going to win talking about crowd sizes. It's not going to win talking about what race Kamala Harris is. It's not going to win talking about whether she's dumb. You can't win on those things. The American people are smart. Treat them like they're smart.
Stop questioning the size of her crowds and start questioning her position when it comes to what did she do as Attorney General on crime. Question what did she do when she's supposed to take care of the border as a czar.
The winning formula for President Trump is very plain to see. It's fewer insults, more.
Look at the way it's so weird. This is superficial, but like not to do what they're saying not to do, which is like making fun of people's appearances. I'm not making fun of people's appearances. It's just the way she talks, but it's like
insights and that policy contrast.
In a press conference on Thursday, Mr. Trump fired back.
I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence, and I think she'll be a terrible president. And I think it's very important that we win. And whether the personal attacks are good, bad, I mean, she certainly attacks me personally. She actually called me weird. Some people say, oh, why don't you be nice? But they're not nice to me. They want to put me in prison.
Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a co-chair of Harris's campaign, is expected to speak this week in Chicago. Whitmer is out with a new memoir, True Gretch, What I've Learned About Life, Leadership, and Everything in Between. And
all right, that's it. True Gretch, I like that. That's like a reference to True Grit, I guess. Pretty.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that. I was just thinking
assume,
true crime.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I was
true
confused.
crime. That's true. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, God, I'm like
True Detective.
It's like this is like almost amusing, but I'm also like, aren't you a little bit bored?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean,
Like,
also, we should talk about the fact, Rania, that we had Sunday shows talking about, in some part, to some extent, the Middle East, and yet these people spoke so much about Hamas's mass rape campaigns, and we've had literal right to rape rallies and protests. We've had members of the Knesset saying it's legitimate to insert sticks into someone's rectum. We've had video leaked of soldiers seeming to sexually abuse a prisoner behind something, and it gets no media play.
It's completely outrageous. Israel has literally been proven to have set up a network of rape dungeons.
Yeah.
You've got prominent Israeli journalists going on TV saying not only is this justified, we should do more of it. Yeah. And that journalist who said that, by the way, came back and apologized. He didn't even apologize. He said he regretted it, not because of what he said, but because it was translated into English.
Right. Yeah.
Like and no one covers it because you know why? They're all a bunch of hypocrites. They don't actually care about rape. They don't actually care about women or men or bodily autonomy. They actually don't care. All they care about is justifying the genocide in Gaza. Because you know what? If someone like Dana Bash, for example,
exactly,
who you might remember that clip of her going at Pramila Jayapal, being like, "But wait a second, Israeli soldiers aren't raping Palestinian women."
Yeah,
that was at that time. There was already allegations of that happening. That was a blatant lie. To me, these people are all just a bunch of like white supremacists, basically pushing out like Jim Crow style blood libels, rape libels against Palestinians. It's so sick. And then they have the audacity. Sorry that I'm going on a ramble here, but I'm so angry because I'm talking to you from Lebanon. They have the audacity to sit there and frame Iran and Hezbollah as like evil powers because they might or they're supposed to respond to Israel for Israel like violating their sovereignty. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in Lebanon right now. You know, the one thing standing in between me and the people I love and care about here in Israeli rape dungeons is this group called Hezbollah that everyone on the Sunday morning news shows will sit there and call terrorists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so disgusting. And the fact that they, again, talked about the mass rape when there wasn't evidence for this, and now we have evidence of Israelis' rape policies, which, again, it's not even just allegations or reports, which would be newsworthy. It's literally people protesting in support of the people who were arrested over that. It's literally people in the Knesset saying it, and the media is silent.
It was on video. We have still the entire media is saying that Hamas carried out rape as a weapon of war on October 7th. There's literally zero evidence, and everything that's been put forward has been debunked. There's certainly nothing on video. Meanwhile, we have video evidence of Israelis gang raping a Palestinian in one of the dungeons they've created. And media silence. It is a conspiracy. It is a conspiracy.
It totally is a decision it is a conspiracy of silence. Yeah. And also B'Tselem, the Israeli human rights organization, put out a report called Welcome to Hell, where they talk about how Israeli prisons are networks of torture.
Yeah.
So anyway, consider this the news report that you should have heard on every single Sunday morning news show, but didn't. So that's what we just did there. Okay. Should we go to the next clip? This is an awkward segue because we were just talking about something horrific. But Wilson, you want to show us the person that Rania thinks JD Vance looks like? Is that him?
Yeah.
I see that more. Okay.
Yeah. As a child. But
I see that.
Totally look like him. Yeah, they look. It's creepy. I thought I literally thought it was the same person when I first saw JD Vance. I was like, oh. Anyway, it's not that exciting.
Yeah. No, but we have to keep people informed. All right. So our next clip comes from Face the Nation, and let's hear what House Intelligence Chair Rep. Sorry, Aaron always corrects me because I always call them rep, which is not what they're representatives. Okay, House Intelligence Chair Representative Mike Turner. Let's hear what he has to say about Iran.
Intelligence and the Justice Department say Iran is working to influence the outcome of the next election. The FBI is investigating phishing attempts at people associated with both the Trump and the Harris campaigns. But we know in 2020, the Supreme Leader had sanctioned Iran interfering to hurt Donald Trump in that election. Are you satisfied with what the social media companies and U.S. intelligence are doing now?
I think what's missing here is a response from the administration. You have Microsoft coming forward and saying that the Trump administration the Trump campaign had been hacked. The Biden administration had identified that Iran was attempting to do this, including spinning misinformation. But even further, the administration has acknowledged that Iran was executing a plan to assassinate Donald Trump. They even alleging that an individual they have in possession was part of that plot. But you don't really have a response from the administration. Most national security experts resoundingly agree that killing a presidential candidate would be an act of war from a foreign power. Well, certainly attempting.
They have surged.
How about killing a sitting general of a country like Qasem Soleimani? Is that an act of war inside another country? Also, I like how that we don't even get to see
very
the
handsome, as you know. I like to always point that out.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. Katie's smitten.
Yeah.
But no, I love this whole. There's like two parts of this. One is they just say all they have to say is Iran did this, and everyone's like, yeah, like the lady's not like, what's the evidence? It's just the FBI said, Microsoft said. Right. I mean, do we have any evidence this happened? I don't know. Iran's got a lot going on. I don't know that they really have time to be trying to assassinate a presidential candidate.
Right.
But more than that, I can't take this election interference stuff seriously because I was just in Venezuela a month ago during their presidential elections. And the entire time, all that happened is that the U.S. and its allies on the ground were trying to not just interfere, overthrow it. They still are trying to overthrow the election. In fact, the Americans recognize the guy who lost as the winner. It's like another Juan Guaido situation. Meanwhile, it's literally like Trump January 6th style, refusing to accept Biden as the president, whatever you have to say about that. I mean, regardless, like Trump did do that. But it's okay when we did it to Venezuela. And that's not to be like a whataboutism. It's just like, I can't take you people seriously. You don't care about election meddling.
Right. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Well, let's keep playing the clip. Yeah.
Is tempting, though, does at least require a response. And this, the administration is both on the hacking side, on the misinformation side, and on the alleged attempt on Donald Trump's life is not holding Iran accountable. There's no red lines.
So you don't count the arrest and prosecution of the individual who is recruiting.
This is not a law enforcement
assassins.
issue. Right? This is not a law enforcement issue. This is a nation state that the administration has identified as having executed a plot to try to assassinate Donald Trump and is undertaking misinformation, election interference, including hacking. This requires a response to the administration.
What does he want the response to be?
Let's go to war with Iran. Is that what he wants? He wants a war with Iran. What a psycho! It's so jarring that he says it with like such a monotone voice.
Yeah, like so calm, cool, calm, and collected. Also, like, I mean, this is like 9/11 logic or WMD logic, right? Like, let's respond without any evidence. And to be fair, that's something that Biden supported. That didn't work out so well. And also this freak out about election interference. Where was he talking about AIPAC, helping oust Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman?
What's AIPAC? I've never heard of it. That's so
I know. Well, as we talked about a couple episodes ago, what about ABAC, American Bosnian Action Committee?
Does that exist?
No, we were joking about how it doesn't. I'll send you that clip. But yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And another point is, how many political figures have the U.S. assassinated?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, how
Israel.
Many political?
Yeah.
I mean, Israel just assassinated the political head of Hamas in Iran. Should Iran respond?
Yeah, good question. Because they know that he did. They actually know that Israel did that. Like there actually is undeniable evidence about that.
So do the Americans. The Americans also know that Israel did that.
Right.
Yeah, they just like anyway. It's like I'm getting the double standards and hypocrisy. Like when it comes to Iran, especially, it's like it's so tired.
Yeah,
like it's so tired. You guys are like wind up. You guys are just like wind up neocon dolls.
Right. All right. Sorry, guys. We have a little bit more of Mike Turner on Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan.
We see now with this administration, they might declare themselves a nuclear weapons state by the end of this year. With the news reports have been out stating that
Are you saying that the Supreme Leader has changed his conclusion
there is
on
a
this?
possibility with the advances that have been made under the Biden administration's policy that Iran could. Reports are out that Iran could declare itself a nuclear weapon state by the end of the year.
That is like just recycled talking point. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
Iran in a few weeks. They're a few weeks away. They're a month away. They're a year away. They're half a year away. Also, like, it's not up to you if Iran gets to have nuclear power or not. Well, it is because you're like the imperialist hegemon that bullies everybody. But anyway.
You would not have had that.
Hasn't been made, has it?
No, but you would not have had that under the Trump administration's maximum pressure campaign. The flexibility and freedom that they've had under the Biden administration has given them the ability to both try to influence our elections, actively try to undertake a plot to assassinate Donald Trump, and to continue their nuclear weapons and their nuclear enrichment programs.
I mean,
maximum pressure never actually stopped.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like
I wish that Biden changed the Trump policy on Iran.
They never went back to the JCPOA.
Right.
Sanctions on Iran have remained. Like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. It doesn't register to me as like anything. Like same policy.
Yeah, and it's also not just same policy, but Trump was the one who withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal that Obama created, which was preventing Iran from becoming a nuclear state. Ironically, and then Biden didn't re-implement that deal. So even people who, like you brought up, they have the right to do that. Who are we to say that? But okay, fine. But let's say you're one of these guys and you think Iran doesn't have the right to do that. It's your policies that are enabling them to do that. Ironically,
at the end of the day, they all they really care about is a justification for war.
For war, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. This is like, I mean, this guy wants a war on Iran.
Right.
I wonder how much money AIPAC's given him.
Good. Yes, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, it's just a question of how much. And also, they're freaking out about the unconfirmed possibility that they're acquiring nuclear weapons, right? But in the future, and have you ever heard them bring up the dangerous fact that Israel has nuclear weapons?
No, listen, it's okay if Israel has nuclear weapons because Israel's our friends.
Right. Yeah.
Israel's just like that's literally like, I mean, I just wish they'd come out and say that.
Yeah, I mean, they always say that it's our friend, but they don't say that other part, and therefore we're okay with XYZ. Yeah.
No, Israel gets nuclear weapons because Israel is America.
Yeah.
And no one else is allowed to have them because America is a bully and doesn't want anybody that it doesn't control to have even a modicum of power in any way. And also nuclear weapons, like, let's not forget, the real reason they don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons isn't because they're scared Iran's going to use them. It's because everyone knows that having a nuke it gives you deterrent capacity.
Exactly.
And leverage so that you don't get, I mean, look at what happened to Libya after they gave up their weapons programs. They got with promises that they wouldn't be destroyed, and they were. And look, North Korea obviously is incredibly isolated and has a lot of struggles to deal with, but no one's invaded it. I mean, like, no one's tried to go to war with North Korea in a very, very long time, and having a nuclear weapon is one reason why.
Also, the hypocrisy of presenting Iran as this scary, irrational actor when Israel is the state that's overtly trying to escalate regional war. Like, and Iran is responding in a very measured way.
Yeah, listen, when it comes to what's been taking place for the last 10 months, and I would even argue longer than 10 months, because when the U.S. murdered Qasem Soleimani, Iran's very measured response prevented regional war. And that is what we've seen repeatedly with every back and forth where the Israelis have tried to push the envelope, escalate, trying to like get Iran to respond so they could drag America in. And Iran has, it's very difficult to do these very balanced, calculated responses that on the one hand, both reassert your deterrence, but also don't trigger the big war. And so when it comes to who's actually like a responsible actor, the resistance axis powers have been responsible, whereas the recklessness has come from Israel and it's in the US.
Yeah, and it's enabler, totally. Enabler and partner, more than enabler, actual partner, yeah. Hit that like, by the way. Whatever man says, hit that like in Rania's voice. Rania, you want to say hit that like?
Smash that like button.
Yeah, where are we on likes, Wilson? Maybe he's in another window. Let's see. Where are we in likes? Someone tell me the
I
number.
see 857.
857. Guys, get to 1,000 now. 1,000 isn't even half. I mean, you may not like it when I chide you, but if I don't chide you, you don't do it. So let's get to 1,000.
There's almost 3,000 people watching. So
Yeah.
it's like really, really not like unacceptable.
Yeah.
That
unacceptable.
at least a third of you. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing? It literally takes
What are you
1
doing with your
second.
life? What
Yeah,
are you doing with your
lives?
life?
We appreciate that. One of the things you're doing with your lives is watching this. We do appreciate that. But make sure that you do better and give it a like. Where are we at now?
Do your part. Do your part.
Do your part. Yeah.
We crossed 1K.
All right, good.
Yeah.
All right, yay. Well done. All right, we got another clip for you. And this one is Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona talking to Margaret on Face the Nation.
Are you comfortable with U.S. weapons being used on Russian soil?
Well, Margaret, yes. I am at this point. The Ukrainians were illegally attacked by Vladimir Putin. He is intentionally killing women, children, old people. It was an illegal invasion. This incursion, let's characterize it that way for now. I don't think the Ukrainians want to intentionally hold Russian territory for a long period of time, but this really set Putin back on his heels. He has always tried to characterize himself as somebody that is going to protect Russia. I think his citizens are seeing the results of what he has done in Ukraine, that now they are somewhat at risk.
Do you think?
By the way, I'm really glad that he calls out the killing of innocents and old people and children and women. Does he want to mention the country that has done that in numbers that absolutely dwarf Russia's numbers?
I am 100% certain that his response to what you just said would be, those are Hamas. That's different.
Right. It's different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're all Hamas.
They're all Hamas.
The babies, the elderly. Yeah.
The horses.
The horses. They're Hamas. Yeah. They shot a horse that was carrying relief, right? Carrying food.
Yeah.
Flour or something.
And then people were like, in a very dark jest, were like, maybe now like all the libs will care because, they usually care about animals and stuff.
Right.
But I'm sure that the response would be that a Hamas guy had just gotten off the horse to go refuel his or to go, get more ammo.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That's like, it's crazy. That's literally what they'll say with a straight face. Their answer to everything it was Hamas.
Yeah. Hamas.
130,000 Russians have had to leave their homes. And at this point in this conflict, I think the Ukrainians did something unpredictable that could really change the tide of how this conflict's going to play out.
A number of key former officials, including the former Supreme Allied Commander, General Breedlove, wrote a letter to President Biden last week calling on him to lift restrictions on the U.S. weapons provided to Ukraine to allow them to strike legitimate military targets in Russia. Would you echo their calls?
Well, Margaret, those restrictions, some of them have already been lifted. And since the invasion now over 2 years ago, we have, periodically, as we should, reevaluate, how we're going to conduct ourselves with regards to the Ukrainians' use of the security.
Sorry, I just have to say that it's like because I don't watch the mainstream media very often. I'll see clips here and there, and sometimes some of the only opportunities I get to really watch a lot of clips at once is when I do this show with you. And it's just really amazing to me that they've been able to maintain this like parallel world where on the one hand, they can have these kinds of conversations about Russia, Ukraine, and act like they care about people. And I'm talking about the anchors. While on the other hand, with Gaza, just like acting like it's some different planet, and suddenly none of these things matter. And it's just weird. It's creepy on a propaganda level. It's really, really creepy how they're able to do that.
Like how overt it is.
Yeah, well, how like the same woman, I mean, I have seen her a couple times like kind of challenge officials here and there on Gaza, but really barely. So like,
and what's sad is she's probably the best on this out of all of them.
Yeah. Right. So like you have this situation where if because Americans, sadly, I disagree. Somebody said Americans are smart. Sadly, Americans are not taught to critically think. The opposite.
That was
So it's
Nikki
not really their
Haley.
fault.
Nikki
Yeah,
Haley. I think it's okay to disagree with her. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But no, I mean, like we literally, like our schools are lacking in lessons on critical thinking, and that's for a reason. It's intentional. So actually, a lot of Americans who are just consuming corporate news outlets like this, like they don't even really think too deeply about it. They'll just sit there and be like, "Oh wow, Russia's so evil in Ukraine," but yeah, like Hamas and Gaza and Israel is like,
but Hamas, yeah. Also, is Mark Kelly okay with Palestinians using U.S. weapons against Israel on Israeli soil since they were illegally invaded and attacked by successive Israeli governments?
I'm going to guess no, because he doesn't actually have principles about anything.
Right, yeah.
Systems that we provide them. And I think it's appropriate to continue to look at what their needs are, how can we make adjustments, what new weapon systems are we going to provide to them. They just recently got F-16s. My hope is that over time here, the Ukrainians learn how to better deploy that weapon system, and we're going to see some positive effects from F-16s on the battlefield. The same is true for ATACMS and HIMARS and these other weapons. So, so periodically reevaluating what we allow them to use is the appropriate thing to do.
I mean, according to New York Times story, by the way, there aren't from March, there aren't enough Ukrainian pilots for the F-16s. So he's just selling false hope.
Well, also, I like how he's just like willing to, Ukrainians can go die doing these things. We'll continue to pour weapons onto it. I think it's totally legitimate, given what he just said there, to go on television, maybe advocate for F-16s for Palestinians.
I think so too. And Rania is saying that hypothetically, NSA and FBI, she's saying that hypothetically, actually what she's saying is that Mark Kelly just called for that if he's not a hypocrite.
Well, yeah, I support Mark Kelly's proposal to send F-16s to the Palestinian armed forces.
Yes.
That's basically what he's supporting.
Right. Exactly,
so.
Yeah. Breaking news.
Fair argument. Yeah,
breaking news. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Who's going to co-sponsor?
Yeah, who's going to co-sponsor it? Let's go down to Fox News, where we got journalist Trey Yingst reporting from Israel.
Middle East, where negotiators may finally be inching closer to a ceasefire deal after 10 long months of war in Gaza. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is there in Israel this weekend, where we find Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Yingst. Been covering it for months. Hello to you, Trey.
Shannon, good morning. After 2 days of talks, there is cautious optimism about the possibility of a ceasefire deal. We do know negotiators wrapped up meetings on Friday in Doha, Qatar. They will resume those talks again this week in Cairo, Egypt. Now, during the conversations, the United States submitted a bridging proposal to bring Israel and Hamas closer to a deal. A joint statement released by the Egyptians, the Qataris, and the Americans said the meetings were serious, constructive, and conducted in a positive atmosphere. Today, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will arrive in Israel, where he is slated to meet Monday with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And while President Biden said late last week that the parties were closer than ever to a ceasefire deal, initial leaks tell a different story. Hamas is still upset about the status of the proposed agreement and has continuously said the Americans can't negotiate in good faith because they are supplying Israel with weapons. Last week, $20 billion in weapon sales were approved by the Biden administration, but most of it will be used to deter and possibly fight Iran and its largest proxy, Hezbollah. The Iran-backed group launched dozens of rockets into northern Israel this weekend as the Israelis continued extensive airstrikes against Hezbollah, killing a top Radwan force commander. For now, Iran itself appears to be backing off weeks of threats against Israel, where officials in Tehran promised retaliation for the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. This comes as the battle inside Gaza grinds on. Many Palestinian civilians were killed over the weekend in Israeli airstrikes, and just yesterday, 2 Israeli soldiers were killed in an IED explosion. Shannon?
All right, Trey Yingst with the latest from Israel. Trey, thank you very much.
I mean, it's interesting that people are optimistic, right? They're reporting people are optimistic. I mean, Israel killed Hamas's lead negotiator, who has been replaced with their much more hardline leader, by the way.
Yeah, Sinwar, quite a popular guy in these parts of the world.
Yeah. And something else I want to point out is, and Wilson, can you show this Mourning Rabbani tweet? because a lot, Muin Rabbani, who we've had on the show, and
we love Marine.
Yeah.
Marine's the best.
You've had him on, right? Yeah.
Marine.
I know, not the Marines.
Not the Marines.
He tweeted out, thread, I've been making the argument that the ongoing negotiations for a Gaza ceasefire are a diversionary U.S.-Israeli charade and shouldn't be taken particularly seriously. Initially, their primary purpose was to serve as a fig leaf for Israel to continue with its genocidal campaign in the Gaza Strip. In other words, their purpose is process, and their objective has therefore been to avoid reaching a ceasefire agreement rather than concluding one, which is true.
I would add something to that too. That's absolutely accurate, and that's how every ceasefire negotiation has gone. But on top of that, this latest round, you'll notice the U.S. has really been dragging its feet, kind of staggering out, sending officials to the Middle East, to different countries. Like we have Anthony Blinken, I think is in Israel today, if I'm not mistaken, meeting with various officials there. So part of this is also trying to delay the Iranian response. To like just push it back. I don't know what do you do after the ceasefire negotiations are over if they fall apart, but it's pretty clear because like the Iranians aren't gonna respond and risk being seen as having been the spoiler in the ceasefire negotiations, and it does seem like they're using their response as like kind of a form of leverage. So yeah, I don't know if I can take anything seriously, especially because the sticking point or the points of contention kind of remain the same. Israel's refusing to a permanent ceasefire. Like that is what a ceasefire is. And that's still what Hamas is saying. The Hamas is saying, we will agree to the ceasefire proposal put forth by Biden back in June. And Israel keeps like adding these stipulations. Like one crazy stipulation is that Palestinians have to be searched for weapons before returning to the north of Gaza. Okay, so what does that mean? That means you need some sort of occupying force on the ground to search them for weapons. And also back off, dude. Like Palestinians in Gaza, like you're asking them to be defenseless against an enemy that literally is trying to exterminate them. It's just so absurd. No other people are, that's not demanded of other people. That's not true. It is. It's demanded of other people. And this is such an extreme situation. It's like imagine you have the biggest powers in the world trying to like do everything in their power to prevent Jews during World War II from like accessing any weapons anywhere against genocidal psychopaths.
Right. Yeah, that's who we are, Rania. That's who the great American nation of democracy and freedom actually is. Well, let's take a look at some more Fox News. And this is Aaron Maté's train mate, Chris Coons. Let's take a look at clips. This is clip 7, Wilson, and started at 2:31, please.
Buyers. So let's walk through some of that. On the issue of price gouging, there is a lot of pushback from economists across the board. One of them says this.
And this is in reference to Kamala's proposals.
Your opponent calls you communist, maybe don't propose.
Wait, hold on. We got to rewind this.
Housing $25,000 to a number of first-time home buyers. So let's walk through some of that. On the issue of price gouging, there is a lot of pushback from economists across the board. One of them says this: when your opponent calls you communist, maybe don't propose price controls. They say it could lead to shortages, black markets, and hoarding. At worst, it might accidentally raise prices. And here's economist E.J. Antoni on that.
Please explain to me how Ms. Harris's policies are not, in fact, aligned with the communist ideology when she's talking about trying to artificially set prices for, I don't care if it's food or rent, you name it. If you employ the same policies as we have had in these other communist countries around the world, you will get the same results here.
Federal government tried it in the 1970s, Senator. It didn't end well.
I just think it's really funny. Sorry, I think it's so funny to try to frame a lower rent as something negative.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, and the big irony is they're framing, in particular, imposing price controls as communist, right? Well, you know what communist famously did that in 1971? Chairman Richard Nixon. And
that guy was such a
communist, and it was politically popular, by the way. So this is just a ridiculous claim, obviously, and it's embarrassing to say. Fox News is pointing to a Fox News correspondent, this guy who's from the Heritage Foundation, A.J. Antoni, which is this right-wing, free market extremist think tank. But let's hear what Coons has to say.
Across the political spectrum say it's a bad idea.
And also, what do you mean across the political spectrum? You have someone in the Washington Post saying it, and you have someone at Fox News saying it from the Heritage Foundation. This is not like show me the leftists saying that.
Yeah.
Well, let's be clear. I know Kamala Harris believes in the free market. What she put out in her proposals includes tax incentives for us to increase the production of housing. And yes, reductions in the prices that seniors pay for prescription drugs. I don't think there's anything communist about wanting to make housing more affordable and prescription drugs more affordable.
But specifically to the issue of price gouging, if you're setting prices, a lot of people feel like that is communist in nature.
A lot of people think
housing aside, let's talk about price gouging and price.
The people who are price gouging feel like it's communist to not let them price gouge.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Shannon, presidents of both parties have tried to use the power of the FTC to rein in high prices at the pump, high prices at grocery stores. I think picking this one proposal of the many she's put out misses the broader point, which is that Vice President Harris is continuing the work of President Biden in reducing costs faced by working Americans. And as for an offset, President Trump wants to make permanent the nearly $5 trillion in tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans and the most profitable companies that he passed on a party line vote in 2017.
See, that's what they should be talking about as opposed to his romantic relationship with Putin. I mean, his upward transfer of wealth is disgusting and something that the Democrats actually could try to run against if they understood how to prioritize messaging.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that they don't know how to prioritize messaging so much as at the end of the day, Democrats say they want to do certain things, but do they really? Yes, okay, price controls would be fantastic, and having these really complex ways of bringing down prescription drug prices, which is a good thing, but should be easier than they try to do it. Having that shot down by Republicans gives you an excuse.
Right, they need them. Right, they need them. Yeah, right. I mean, you're right. It could also be because they're basically like 1% less beholden to billionaires than the Republicans are.
Well, also, what he's saying is a very popular thing among Americans when they're polled, that they do want regulated prescription drug prices. Right. That is something popular among most people. And then the only way to try to make it seem like that's really complicated is introducing the word communism, which is just so cartoonishly ridiculous.
So dumb. Yeah. It's so dumb. Yeah. Well, we talked about J.D. Vance earlier. Let's take another look at his Punim. Let's hear what he had to say this weekend. This is a really interesting point he makes. It's very original. And it's once again on Fox News.
Giving Kamala Harris control over inflation.
Wait, hold on. We have to start with this one from the beginning.
Giving Kamala Harris control over inflation policy, Shannon, it's like giving Jeffrey Epstein control over human trafficking policy. The American people are much smarter than that. They don't buy the idea that Kamala Harris represents a fresh start. She is more of the same. It is doubling down on the failed policies of the Harris administration to give Kamala Harris a promotion rather than to fire her, which is what I think most Americans are going to do on November.
That was such a crazy analogy.
Yeah.
I don't even know
what does that even mean? Like, first of all, okay, so in case you guys are in denial about what was said, giving Kamala Harris control over inflation policy, it's like giving Jeffrey Epstein control over human trafficking policy. Also, would you bring that up if your running mate had been on his Lolita Express?
I don't. Did he think that through? Like, he must have thought it was.
He did, obviously. Yeah.
A zinger.
Yeah.
Zinger.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to make. That was just weird. That was just
really weird. Yeah.
Maybe he's trying to reach out to the people who are, I don't know. There's kind of a crossover between the whole Epstein thing, which, we get Epstein was a human trafficker who had friends in high places.
Right.
But then the QAnoners are kind of into that too.
Oh yeah, maybe. I think so.
So maybe he's like trying to codedly reach out to that. I'm just trying to be generous here. I don't know why else he would say that.
Right. I mean, also the one thing he could shoot back if someone brought up Trump, of course, he could say, well, Bill Clinton was on the Lolita Express as well.
Yeah.
It's beautiful how sexual, trafficking It's so bipartisan. Yeah, exactly.
Bipartisan. Yeah. We're one country, really.
Yes, we are. I mean, you know how Kamala said that she's running to represent all Americans? Well, Jeffrey Epstein's friends represent all Americans, all American political elites, at least. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have another clip. Let's take a look at this week. It's our only this week clip, I think, for this week. And this is an interesting comment on the protests that are expected to happen in Chicago at the DNC.
I know that every delegate to this convention shares tonight my sorrow and my distress over these incidents. May we just quietly and silently, each in our own way, pray for our country.
That was the scene in 1968 as police cracked down violently on Vietnam War protesters outside the Democratic National Convention in Chicago as Vice President Hubert Humphrey accepted his party's presidential nomination. The Democratic Convention is now back in Chicago this week, and there will once again be protests, this time over the war in Gaza. ABC's chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, is just outside the United Center covering those planned protests and the security preparations underway. Good morning to you, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Martha. 50,000 convention goers and tens of thousands of protesters. And the area of that convention, which you see right behind me, is hermetically secured at this point, to the extent that mailboxes around here have even been sealed to prevent explosive devices from being put inside. And with a sitting president, vice president, nearly the entire cabinet, and former presidents here, officials tell me that this event has the highest threat profile of any event in the city of Chicago in over a decade.
As the nation's top Democrats ascend on Chicago, law enforcement and city officials are prepping not just for a massive influx of visitors, but for a sea of protesters. While the candidate at the top of the ticket has changed, the Biden administration's continued supply of weapons for Israel's military operations remains a political flashpoint. After nearly a year of protests across the country, tens of thousands of demonstrators are expected to march through the Windy City.
We could be out in the streets cheering loudly and protesting loudly and calling for a free Palestine loudly while Kamala Harris is giving her acceptance speech.
Thousands of federal, state, and local law enforcement officials have spent months preparing, hoping to avoid a repeat of the 1968 convention in Chicago, when anti-Vietnam War protests turned violent.
We're expecting First Amendment activity, but we're also preparing for the possibility of vandalism, criminal activity, or civil unrest.
And we watched that scene play out in Washington in July, when protests over Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress boiled over.
The flag there on the ground was on the flagpole here at Union Station a few moments ago, but protesters here lit it on fire, as well as that effigy of Benjamin Netanyahu.
In Chicago, gatherings will be contained to certain areas outside the secure perimeter that surrounds the United Center, and marches will be limited to a predetermined route.
Martha, officials tell me there's no specific credible threat to this event, and the marches begin tonight, followed by the major marches and protests tomorrow and Thursday, time to coincide with the primary events of the convention. But one thing that protest organizers have told me, that their routes are through narrow streets. They're concerned that that might increase the risk of unrest and chaos. Police say they are aware of that and are prepared. Martha.
Well, I like the flag burning footage, as if that was not protected speech, which it is.
Yeah, they don't want it to be, though. That's, for some reason, the most offensive thing you could possibly do. It's even more offensive, some might say, than killing well over 40,000 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. So,
oh yeah, way more offensive to our politicians. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
she wants. They oppose that. They embrace genocide. They oppose flag burning.
No, they'll definitely cry harder over flag burning than the intentional killing of 40-year-old twins.
Than over people burning.
Yes, then over. Oh, there you have it. Flag burning first, people burning never.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to seeing what actions take place over the next few days with the DNC. There was a part in that story where it was something along the lines of they don't think these people are going to pose a threat. And I'm like, well, the only threat they pose is to the reputation of a genocidal Democratic Party. So
right, which they don't want that. That's not something they want to see under threat.
No, they don't. I mean, I imagine there's also going to be a lot of stuff happening inside with uncommitted delegates because me and Katie, you and I, Katie, were both at the DNC back in 2016.
Oh my God, remember that?
Yeah. And there was a lot of anger about what had happened with Bernie Sanders. And so there was a lot of actions inside the DNC by delegates.
Right. And actually, Rania and I were doing something. I'm doing the one with you on Thursday night. You're doing 2 nights. But where can people watch that stream that we're doing?
Breakthrough News YouTube channel.
Yeah, Breakthrough News YouTube channel. We'll put a link to that in this description too. And we'll put a link to the September 19th also. Let's do one more clip and then we'll do a little news update about someone who recently passed away, sadly. So let's play the Wilson, let's play the Tammy Duckworth clip, which one is that?
Also concerned about where the Biden administration stands on the war in Gaza. You're expecting thousands, tens of thousands of protesters here. How does Kamala Harris differentiate herself from Joe Biden, or will she differentiate herself from Joe Biden?
I think we need to work hard on getting the ceasefire agreement. And I think what she can push for is to talk about making sure that we get the humanitarian aid into Gaza. And I think she will lean more heavily towards the humanitarian side of things. And in fact, we have issues right now where at different times, different sides have opposed the deal. We're very close to getting a ceasefire agreement on both sides. But I think you're going to see Kamala talking more about getting humanitarian aid into Gaza.
It's interesting. I think she's probably right there. She says you're going to see Kamala talking more about it. And she will talk more about it, and she won't change the policy.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if there's going to be a genocide, wouldn't you rather have it being overseen by somebody who at least expresses that the people being genocided, like, it's sad that they're suffering?
Right. Yeah. She sees their humanity that she's helping extinguish.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's go to some sad news, but it's important and it's relevant. And that is that Phil Donahue passed away at the age of 88. He was a groundbreaking journalist and TV host. He was really the first person to have a TV show that had an audience participation. Is that right? Wait, let me just make sure. What is it that he just, I just had it lined up, the thing that he did that was historic. Anyway, he was did it way before Oprah did it. But he also was an anti-war voice and got fired over that by MSNBC. Let's take a look at him talking about that.
Well, I think what happened to me, the biggest lesson, I think, is how corporate media shapes our opinions and our coverage. This was a decision, the decision to release me came from far above. This was not an assistant program director who decided to separate me from MSNBC. They were terrified of the anti-war voice, and that is not an overstatement. Anti-war voices were not popular. And if you're General Electric, you certainly don't want an anti-war voice on a cable channel that you own. Donald Rumsfeld is your biggest customer.
And well said. And this is referring to the fact that in 2003, he was fired from his primetime MSNBC talk show during the run-up to the U.S. invasion of Iraq. And it wasn't the ratings were not the issue. It was that he did not provide the right number of peace voices. The ratio of peace to war voices was not high enough. He was supposed to have, I think, 2 pro-war voices for every anti-war voice. And he didn't do that. So he was fired.
What a free country, free press we have, huh?
Yeah.
Really the pinnacle of how world should be.
Yeah. And so we want to recognize him. He was 88, and he was the first person to host a show with a talk show with audience participation. That's what it was. And as he said about his firing, he said that MSNBC required that, quote, "We have 2 conservative guests for every liberal. I was counted as 2 liberals."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, he's a legend. So
he is a legend. Yeah.
Rest in power, sir.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then before we go, let's also do some super chats. All righty. We got a lot of love here. Thank you, James. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Stephen Hayes. Well, I don't know what that's a weird comment. We're not gonna. All right.
Katie, I'll bring you some immune boost. Yeah.
Okay, great.
For those allergies.
Thank you. Let's see. Kamala Harris is an artificial construct free of children that might have proven her human and caring, free of any concern for innocent women and children gone in Gaza. I mean, I don't know if you have to have children to prove that you're caring, but I agree with other parts of that. Her landslide defeat will be such sweet, sweet revenge. You don't think she's going to be defeated, right?
I mean, if it continues like this, no, but anything's possible.
Right,
and then she could super mess up, and then everybody's like, ew, gross, you know?
Yeah. It takes a long time to eat ice cream when you are in cryo storage. More Taylor Kitsch. Oh, Martha Allen, she's so great. Katie and Rania, outstanding journalists who each received the Women in Media Award from the Women's Institute for Freedom of the Press. We love you. Thanks, Martha. We love you.
We love you.
Yay. Let's see. We got some generosity, of course, from Sparky. Let's see. Sparky also puts in a quote: "Anytime someone says that Israel's our only friend in the Middle East, I can't help but think, before Israel, we had no enemies in the Middle East." John Sheehan, U.S. missionary. Oh, wow. That's a good.
I mean,
yeah.
Before Israel, we had no enemies in the Middle East. I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, I think that means that we we did have enemies, but I think that we weren't seen as much of a threat as we are because of our using Israel.
Maybe.
I mean, we were imperialists, but we didn't have like an imperialism outpost right there.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe. I mean, it's kind of a pathetic difference, right? Because it was still pretty bad, and we were carving them up. Okay. Bipartisan support for genocide and right to rape. Katie and Rania ruled the most morning after. Thank you. Let's see. Just doing. We already showed a lot of Sparky and Stephen Hayes. So I'm just looking for people whose comments we haven't read. Thank you so much. Oh, this is interesting. Russell Brand has not mentioned Gaza since his Christian conversion. Is he a Christian Zionist? That's insane. He hasn't mentioned Gaza.
Oh, I didn't even know he converted.
Me neither. Yeah.
It's news.
Wow. Thanks so much, Sparky and Steven, for all your comments. Thank you so much, Wadeworth. That's a very nice donation. ADEK, sorry, Katie, the Dem-Republican difference is not the number of billionaires. It is strategy to manage us. These say they want good things, but let it get mentioned. What promises have they kept? ACA was the closest they've come to century. I mean, I think they do. Their tax proposals are slightly better, but again, it's not anything significant. They still let billionaires rule the world. Anyway, Rania, any final comments you want to share? Anything you want to say sitting from where you are in Beirut?
No, I mean, just everybody, thanks for tuning in. And please do tune in to our live streams. We're doing live streams from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Wednesday and Thursday at Breakthrough News. And Katie will be joining us to co-host the Thursday live stream.
Yeah, that'll be great. And we'll put links to our September 19th show in this description too. See you next week, everyone. Thanks all.